Oh, yeah.
Bless and love, my lords. We have an incredible guest today. Viva La Vandal, a man of many, many connections and projects and fortune and friends and colour and style and street credit that not too many have, I don't think. We've got a special guy with us, and we've also got another guy on stage who's quite special, and his name is Redlion. I'd love for him to say hello to y'all too.
I love that you start with bless and love.
It's a red line thing, isn't it? I'm an alien, I'm a frog, but I'm also a red line now. So
I love it. I love give it to you. You can use it all the time. I love it. Hey, Viva La Vandal.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Man.
That was a great
Good,
intro.
What's up, Viva? I'm not even half done, man. I had a space with Owen last week, and I know what me and him are like. I can come into a space and we're just going to talk and talk and talk, and things are going to happen. But when it came to you, Viva, I needed to write down some talking points, and I shared them with you.
Yes,
of course. But there's a lot to cover, isn't there?
Yeah, well, when you see it written down like that, there is. I don't stop that often to look back at things sometimes. So this will be good for me too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's nice, man. You know, when I started doing the interviews, I was a little bit, I was like, oh, it's okay, I can do it. It's easy. Just ask questions. And then I understood it's not so easy. And then I started paying attention to become better and better every time. So here you go. That is your chance to become a superstar.
I've certainly noticed that one week to the next. Like, I'm planning out a few extra things for Viva that I didn't do for Owen, and I've got a couple of things lined up for next week's guest that I don't have lined up for Viva, sort of thing. Like, it just keeps it snowballs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You'll be a pro by the end of it, my man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I can relax. Yeah, it's gonna be a busy 6 weeks. All right. So, Redline, did you want to stay up on stage with us? Do you want to be a part of the conversation? I'm more than happy for you to do so.
Yeah, sure, man. I will be here chatting with you guys. I don't want to step on any toes. I will just ask a few questions and chill with you.
Cool.
Get to meet you.
Sweet as. Well, I did say to Viva, we're not going to talk about anything Boshy, anything Mika. We did a bit of that last week with Aaron. I'm going to make sure we try and keep this as relevant and as focused on Viva as absolutely possible. And I think it would be nice, perhaps, Viva, to start with a bit of your story. I know that you worked doing flyers for drum and bass events and all sorts of things early on in the beginnings. But how did you get into what you do, which is street art, graffiti, something a little bit different, and sort of, yeah, if you could talk us through the journey. I know I've heard about it, a bit of it on Killer Colors YouTube.
Yeah.
Is it a podcast? I guess so.
Yeah, man, sure. It's well, I started at a really young age because my older brother was heavily into graffiti and hip hop, and he was a b-boy as well. So we shared a room, and him being my older brother, obviously, it had a big influence on the things I was interested in. So from a young age, I was trying to copy the things he was doing. He had like Subway art and spray can art, which were great books, still great books. If anyone hasn't seen them, I'd suggest looking them up. And looking through those books, I spent hours and hours just copying people's styles and letters, and just became obsessed with graffiti then. And then obviously started doing my own versions of it and developing it from there, thinking of names. And at the same time, my brother was heavily into going to raves, because it was that sort of era where everyone was going to underground raves and stuff like that. I was too young to go, but he had flyers.
Has that era ever phased out? I don't think so.
I think it's changed. I think
it's just different people at the raves.
Yeah, and I think some of the ones, he was sort of the tail end of where it was full on illegal, so they were going into like warehouses and taking them over and then doing all of that stuff, and then that all sort of got shut down and it moved sort of more commercial. But he had all of the flyers, so every time you went to these things, you brought back loads of flyers, and the artwork on the flyers back then was just insane. So he had them all over his wall. So I also became massively inspired by them. So when I was 16, I went and did work experience. After ringing loads of places in London, my dad rang around all of them because he was always a big supporter of my creativity. he found somewhere called Design Asylum, which is sadly no longer running. And it was run by a guy called Damon Kroonsberg, who was a graffiti writer as well. And he was an illustrator, and he was way ahead of his time with the work he was doing graphic design wise. And he was sort of at the forefront of all the drum and bass things in London. So he was doing all things for World Dance, Ministry of Sound, Shaman, loads of these sort of places that kick-started a whole sort of sound in London. And he was doing all of their work. And he was really cool. He was like, yeah, come up, spend some time with me. So I went up and was lucky enough to learn from him before I'd even gone to study design or anything, because I was like 16. And he taught me about letter forms, and he told me to write that everyone should make their own comic. He was mad into Batman comics. So he was like, look, you got to sit down, try and write your own comic, try and create your own characters. So like pushed me to do things that I wasn't doing before then. And
it was such a great shout.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about Alcatraz Swim Team and where you can take this thing, because it is limitless once you realize that you are we are all very creative. We just don't really know to what degree. But that suggestion of drawing your own comic, that's something that I will carry and pass on to my kids. Get to drawing, and don't just draw one picture, but actually draw a story.
Yeah.
Like, take it as far as your brain can take it, because at that point you are really living in your own world.
Yeah, and your imagination can run wild, and learning about building stories and stuff, because it's way harder than I thought it would initially be, because I was used to drawing characters and stuff like that, because you draw them with graffiti and they'd normally just be on the end or part of it. But then when you're trying to build a whole story around it, it gets a lot harder. But so I sort of started then with drum and bass, doing flyers for that. But at that point I wasn't obviously making money. I hadn't been to study, so I just started doing things for free for local events with people that I knew, doing flyers that way. And just getting experience.
Were you getting into some of these events?
Was I what?
As a 16-year-old, were you welcomed into some of the events?
I started to, but I always looked really young, so I always had trouble. So I was like baby-faced until I was about 18. And even then I would get ID'd and I wouldn't get let in. So I actually got a bit of a side hustle. I was making fake IDs. So I used to do that on the side as well to keep these going. Which started off because I had to make them for myself to get myself in.
You had the design skills, didn't you?
And I could do it. I realised that the college I was at, their ID thing was really easy to copy. So I saw a gap in the market. But
I think it's quite funny you say. It's funny you say that, actually, because you said that you followed your older brother into this, and my older brother used to make some fake IDs as well. I'm the young brother and who didn't make fake IDs in the situation. You're the young brother who did.
Yeah.
But I know that feeling of your older brother does something cool and you just want to follow. I remember I hated mushrooms, never liked eating mushrooms. And then one day my oldest brother had some mushroom sauce on his steak and he goes, oh yeah, man, mushrooms are good. And I was like, all right, give me a try. Yeah. Ever since then, love them, You're like, it's funny how quickly your opinion can change when someone who you sort of believe in changes it for you, I guess.
Looking up to them and wanting to do cool stuff that they do and things like that. And as a kid sitting in a room listening to, especially like hip hop and stuff like that, with swear words and listening to things that I knew I wasn't meant to be listening to, there was like that edge to it. And then graffiti as well, going out and doing things like that, again, was appealing because it was rebellious and it was, something you weren't going to do. So, yeah.
Have you left your mark, would you say, in the streets of London or in the streets of...
Not really.
Whichever part of the UK that you would like to frequent? Because I know I lived there for 5 years and I used to love Shoreditch Community Gardens, which unfortunately has been torn down now and is turning into a housing development or something. But that was the most amazing place, the most beautiful art. I used to visit it regularly. And I've been to Fabric and Elephant and Castle and some of these sort of dark, dank clubs and whatnot as well, which is... It's just an incredible city, but it is so full of colour.
That's where I went to college, actually. It was in Elephant Castle. Don't know if it's still there. There was a printing college by the big roundabout in Elephant Castle. So you had to go underneath the underpass thing there. And then obviously you had Ministry of Sound around the corner. So all of our college parties used to be at Ministry of Sound. Look, we had loads of London graffiti writers who used to go to that college. So when you were going in up through our stairwell, there was this graffiti writer who started off, he was called Unknown, and he used to write everywhere. You'd see him all over the place around South London. And then one day, someone else in London who was a writer who was more famous went over him and started dogging all of his graph. So he switched his name to Known, because he was like, well, I must be known if someone's going over me. So I thought that was genius. And yeah, he went to our college and he just used to bomb everywhere. And he was an interesting guy as well. I heard he was a busker last I saw him. He was doing these mad, like, reggae Wu-Tang sort of busking things. It was crazy.
Go through phases, don't we?
Yeah. But yeah, I forgot.
But
yeah.
That leads me into then, can you, well, actually, firstly, before I ask you about your name, I am intrigued as to how Viva La Vandal came about, because it's everywhere now too. But firstly, you mentioned your brother,
yeah.
and I mentioned my brother. I was just going to, like, just general stuff that people won't know about us is our siblings and our families, you know, like the stuff that we usually keep quite private. But I feel like in these sort of trusted spaces, we can chat a little bit. I've got a couple of older brothers and a younger sister, and mum here, but dad gone. I don't know what your situation is with parents and siblings, but obviously you've got the one older brother. Are there others around you who have sort of supported your journey in some way?
Yeah, it was similar. My dad passed away some years ago. He was a really big supporter of me and always did everything to help me out. And it was a shame, really, because he never really got to see me work in a way and sort of where it started to turn good. He never really got to see that journey because he'd already gone. But I sort of stay more inspired by the fact when he left that I was going to make a success of it because of it, if that makes sense. It was sort of a real driving force. Me and my brother don't really speak, sadly, anymore. But my sister and my mum have always been big supporters. I confuse my mum sometimes when I'm telling her about drawing frogs, and she's looking at me like crazy. Like, what is he talking about now? And I've been trying to talk to her about Bitcoin and decentralizing things at that rage, and she just thinks it's mad. But she also tries to support it because I think she thinks that I seem happy, so it must be good.
Yeah, pretty much. I was having a conversation with PE Sharp the other day, and she mentioned that she's in the opposite position, which I find quite interesting, because I'm in the same position as you, where I've talked to my mum about a lot of the stuff that I've been getting up to lately. My dad, when he was here, he thought I was an accountant, and he was happy with me taking that path in life. And he knows nothing, I guess, of my creative endeavors now. But I do believe that although his body has left us, his spirit is still within the universe somewhere, and he's seeing what's happening with open eyes. So but PE Sharp is in the opposite position. She's actually the mum in this situation who knows all about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and she has a son who is, I think, in design or something similar, but he doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't want to know about it. And I'm kind of like, I just assumed if she was the one with the knowledge, that he must have then picked up on some of it. So I said, he must know what's going on in this world too, right? And she goes, oh no, he doesn't want to know about it. He just thinks I'm off doing my thing and that's fine. And I'm like, oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely, people definitely have their own takes on it, don't they? It stirs up some strong emotions from a few people. It's quite interesting.
Oh yeah, I would imagine if you've been programmed your entire life to not believe that this was possible, then to hear it from somebody else and not to find out for yourself is quite difficult, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot of connections for me between spending a lot of time doing graffiti and things like that, and the freedom of just going out and just writing whatever the fuck you want, where you want, and just going around and doing that. The idea, I never felt like I fitted into the system anyway. So, you know, it's great that I want to break away from that. It's not something I ever believed in. And I think the sort of freedom you get with everything that's happening now with the art movement on Ethereum and on Bitcoin, and the freedom it's giving people, I think is a flashback to me for those sort of days.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? Because as a graffiti artist, you go out and you spray paint, and people have this stigma about graffiti that is like it's the thugs. It's not it's the same shit that gets thrown around with hip hop and with all with anything that comes from sort of black culture. I think there's always like a stigma around it, and it I'm not actually sure if graffiti came from black culture or from where it came from exactly. You probably know more about that than me, but basically, like I saw you did that Black Lives Matter spray painting at the skate park in one of your YouTube videos, and it's just so beautiful to see it. And yet somebody arrives and says, "What the fuck are you guys tearing this place up for? You ruin it. It's not meant to. We paid all this money to get that wall painted the first time." And it's like these people are on the complete other side of the spectrum to us, and they see us as the bad guys, which is really weird because we're out here just like, although we have the freedom to say whatever we like, we've found a way of talking and communicating politely and discreetly with one another in the same way that graffiti artists, I'm sure, did in the back streets. You know, like you guys are there as friends and comrades going through something together, and yet people on the outside looking in think that you're the bad guy, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, that was...
And that's kind of what Alcatraz swim team is all about, isn't it?
Yeah. I've loved putting that whole project together, and it's so far, it's nowhere near complete yet, the journey with that. But I recommend anyone go and check that out who hasn't seen it yet. But I want to bring on more graffiti artists and things like that to get involved as well, because I think there's definitely room for them and space for their talents in this space, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I would imagine when they do come in, you're going to be one of the first people they find out about, because as a fake career artist who has been drawing frogs for a lot longer than a few of us, probably most of us, and by the time everyone else comes along, it will be most of us. It'll be 99% of us, like in terms of world population, once everyone catches on to what we're up to. But yeah, you being a fake career artist, that is such a key feature for an artist in our world. Like when I look at the fake res community, I see a bunch of people who have been working together, like I said, politely and discreetly behind essentially closed doors, but those doors are open to anyone. Like, you know what I mean? Like the Telegram chat is private, but it can be found if you're willing to do the work. So it's quite an awesome community. But I was going to ask you what it means to you, like to be a part of that, and I know that Alcatraz swim team didn't start on Ethereum, that's for sure. There are some precursors within your collections on Dankset and on Robot Love Copy and whatnot. So I'm going to link some of those collections in the tweet thread if Redlion can pop them up, pin them up. That would be nice. But yeah, if you can tell us a little bit about what that community means and how awesome they are, because I know you love them and I love them.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider fake rares to be my family for sure. I think when I found fake rares and I started working in there, I think I just fitted in. It felt like it was meant to be. It was just right. It was a really welcoming community as well, because I hadn't started in there. I'd been creating NFTs and digital art and minting it for quite some time before that. But I hadn't
all
found...
on XCP then, or?
No, not on XCP. I've been doing stuff on Ethereum for a while.
Okay.
Not always under the name Viva La Vandal. I had another one for Herber81, which was another graffiti name. And then me and Arrow had been doing stuff under the name Arrow. And with Cess, I'd been doing stuff with him. But I think naively, when I came into it, which was some time ago now, I was taking things that were graffiti and street art that we were doing, and I thought you could just transition that straight in there and people would be like, oh, that's awesome, and then it would just go down the storm. But I soon learned that, you bring them over and just no one really cared, that you can't just they didn't. They were just like, oh yeah, nice. But I just don't think, I didn't understand the whole community thing and the whole how you need to actually not figure this out, but you got to be a real part of it. You got to be about it. You got to believe in it. And it's not enough to just be turning up and doing something that you paint in the street or something like that and be like, oh, there it is, and expect it to fucking pop off, because it just didn't work like that. So I spent a while.
I think it's interesting because like if you're doing it and you try and show it to somebody who's not a part of our community, it's quite difficult for them to comprehend what you're up to, like you said, with your mum or with my mum or with whoever it might be. But when you find that community like Fake Rares within the world that you're already living in, and there's a bunch of people you don't need to explain anything to, and they just get it. That makes a hell of a difference. And then, like you say, they do become like your family, because like my mum worries about me all the time. She's like, "Oh, you got to be careful on the internet, Corbin. I don't know about you doing this thing. I don't know." I'm like, "Mum, there ain't nobody better on a computer than my friends. Like, they are the most incredibly intelligent individuals, and they know the most about security, and they look out for each other. And when something happens, like I know we had some scams have been happening recently, some address poisoning. I know one of our friends lost a few assets, and like the way that I saw you step in, and I've seen other people step in similar situations before, to sort of say, hey, look, we got you, man. Like, you're a part of our community and you're a part of our family, and we're going to look after you, and we're going to make sure if those assets don't get back to your address, then some other ones will come and fall in their place, because we don't want to lose the person from the community at that point, do we?
Yeah, exactly. It's way bigger than that. These are people that have helped support all of us in that community, and then other projects. And I see it as such a minor thing to do, that if you can reach out to help someone like that, and I know for a fact everyone in the fake rare community, and I'm sure other communities outside of that, would do the same thing. But that's all I've experienced while I've been a part of that community, is people just overly helpful, wanting to help you, wanting to help push you forward, to create things, share it. And so as you were saying, when we had it recently with our friend, it's just, you just want to help.
Yeah, I mean, I feel guilty sometimes. I come into these chats and I feel like I'm being too overly helpful or too noisy, and I do say sometimes, like, don't listen to me, guys, I'm just chatting shit. Like, I'm just yelling into the ether, like I'm trying to be loud because I want to be heard. Like, and I know with your art, you probably do the same thing. You don't like yell it out like this on a call very often, but you're putting things out there in the world that are made to be seen, I think. Like, and once you understand some of the fake rare history, and like the way that they pay homage to not just like recent artists and musicians and things, but like artists from the last 2,000 or 10,000 years, like there's a lot of encrypted information within the pictures. And so like you're doing it in the complete opposite way to me, in terms of I'm out there like putting my hand up and saying, yo, I'll do this. I'll be a spokesbro for this community. I'll like go out and chat shit for a living, like why not? But not everyone wants to do it my way. And you're as like, I mean, you're on that in that YouTube vid with Killer Color the other day, and I'll link that one in there too. But like, you're not afraid to stand up and be heard, I think, which is quite cool.
Yeah, I hadn't really done many things before I did that podcast with him. My friend convinced me to do it when I met him at an art show.
Smart dude, eh?
Yeah. Keller's a really nice, he's a really chill guy as well. And he really wants to learn a lot more about this space. He's interested in releasing music and bringing that across, and just working with other artists as well. He's all up for collaborating with people and everything too. So I think, there's loads.
That's the cool thing too, right? Collaboration with the fake rare community is so easy. You can just put a message in there and say, hey, does anyone want to help with this? And you'll get like 6 people, 12 people come back to you. And like, I'm in my other Ethereum collections, like my Aliens collection, and they're all sitting there complaining about, when are the devs going to do something? I'm like, yo, I made a Mikaboshi asset. Again, I said I wouldn't talk about that project, but one that just says we are the devs, like, just got to do something. Don't just be there passively waiting for your investment to go up. Like, do something to help somebody, and your investment will go up, I think. That's my philosophy anyway.
That's the thing. And it's just about jumping in and just, like you say, getting shit done and just doing things. And that's what I love about this, the whole experience of this and creating art on the blockchain, is that you can act on things so quickly. And I think the rare Pebes did that historically as well, recording moments in time on the blockchain. And the fake rares have carried that on, that you can respond to events that are happening, or you'll see something and you can incorporate so many different elements into creating the fake rares, or just Pebes in general. I think that's what's the beautiful thing. You can put so much in there, like so many references to other things. You can look back and reference that in there. It's like remixing. It's like a hip hop version. You put a few things down, you're laying your own remix and you're putting it out there. And that's why I think it was a perfect fit for me, because put so many things that I love doing and passionate about, and you put them all in this pot and cook them up, and then that's where the fake rares come out.
Yeah, it's funny that you say all that, because I know, like, I'm looking at the moment at just what Redlion did for you for this space versus like they had a previous post which was this frog that had been generated with Midjourney, I believe, and they've replaced the face of the frog with your face with your red stripe over your eyes, and you're holding your vinyl up, and pulling West Side, and it's like they've just remixed their old picture to bring you into this new part of this project, and like it all kind of makes sense to me in this way. And like I know I've started a chat with you guys who are part of this curation as artists, just to sort of bring together the people that I am bringing into Redlion, so that if they have any problems or like questions or anything, it can happen all in one space. And that is now a collaboration chat, essentially. Like everything becomes a collaboration when you look at things this way. And like what's the oh, sorry, I've just gone off, lost my train of thought. Oh, that's the other part, is like in that chat, we know that there is somebody working on something which explains this journey through time of Pepe.
Yeah.
This next week's artist, he's working on something that is explaining this, and then in a couple of weeks' time after that, there's somebody else. And like this whole curation for me is just a pleasure, because I get to meet you guys, like fake rare artists and perhaps not fake rare artists, and like bring together some of this understanding of what fake rares is, and help talk to people in spaces like this about it. Like it's just, I just got a big smile on my face. I'm like, this is just silly, but it's frogs and it's fun,
Yeah, that's the thing. It is fun. It is fun. And I'm always smiling when I'm drawing these things. I was drawing one today, and I was like, I was laughing as I was drawing it. So I thought, this is fucking great.
Yeah, I don't know if people will know this about you, but you are drawing frogs literally every day, aren't you? And you're pumping out like something new every day or every second day. Like there is a lot going on in the world of Alcatraz Swim Team and Viva La Vandal, and
it's loads. I mean, my mind has gone. It's always going crazy, but it seems to have gone into hyperdrive since January. Gone mental.
I found out last night that artificial intelligence to be artificially intelligent means to be intelligent through art. Essentially, artificial, the word itself, means carried through art, as per Latin, and we are essentially artificially intelligent because we are communicating through art, and that is why our brains are starting to go haywire, because we are starting to have all these new ideas. Like it's difficult sometimes. Like I think that's like, I feel like everybody who's in this world has a little bit of ADD. I'm like looking at different tabs while I'm talking to you and trying to make like my conversation make sense at the same time,
Well, yeah, I'm literally going around in a moment, drawing one thing, having another idea about something else. So I'm writing that down, and then I'm thinking, shit, now I want to draw this. So I haven't finished this other one. So then I'll go off and start drawing the other thing, because the minute an idea comes into my head, that's the most important thing in the world I've got to do. In my mind, I'm like, right, that's it. There's nothing else in the world at the moment apart from me drawing this, getting this out of my head. But then I'd start popping up, having random ones. Then I remember that I've said that I'll animate something for someone else. I'm like, crap, I'm going to be doing that. So, but it's haywire at the moment. I've just got 1,000 ideas at once.
And you got a daughter too, right? Just one kid, or?
What's that?
You got a daughter, I think.
Oh no, I got 2 sons. Yeah.
Oh, 2 sons. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a handful. But,
how old are they? They're old enough to enjoy the frog pictures and read the comics, or have you like created books for them?
Yeah, they love it. They love it. Yeah, well, you're sitting down. My 5-year-old loves drawing.
I bet your sketchbooks are everywhere.
Yeah, they are. I've got boxes and boxes of drawings and they go back years. From even my mum drops them off at my house because she wouldn't get rid of them. And now I don't really know what to do with them. So I'm like, I don't know if I should throw this stuff away. There's like so much of it. I thought, I can't just go through my life collecting all of these drawings everywhere. Like, luckily.
But that's what the paperless future is for, though. We got iPads now, and you can draw things in a very
exactly. Thank God.
Manner.
Thank God for my iPad Pro, because that's for storage alone. Otherwise, I'd need to be buying some mansion just to store all the paper and crap that I've got. But
are you an Apple guy?
Yeah, and I think that comes from having a design background that, generally speaking,
Yeah.
we just never used PCs. I never worked in a studio where you use PCs. It was like, nope. So I've always used Macs. And I just find that they make more sense to
Would you
use.
like to hear my conspiracy theory about Apple?
Oh, no. What? You're going to ruin it for me? You're going to make... Go on
Uh,
then.
it's quite interesting, but basically, Steve starts with the letter S, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love numerology, and I love the idea that every letter and every word means something. Like, that's what crypto is to me. I just seek knowledge all the time, and as a result, I come across what some people would call conspiracy theories. But conspire means to breathe, and conspirare means to breathe together. So conspiracy is not like the negative word that people make it out to be, but like graffiti is not the negative art that people make it out to be. But basically, Steve starts with S, which is the first letter of the word snake. The snake created a company that is an apple with a bite out of it, and his last name was Jobs. Like he gave everyone jobs. It's just, it feels like he is a plant, you know, like, and the apple with the bite out of it is representative of the plasmoids, which apparently, I was listening to Randall Carlson and Joe Rogan talk about plasmoids, these little, basically unlimited energy atomic things. I don't know what they're called exactly, but plasmoids are something that they've extracted in the Maldives recently, according to Randall Carlson at least. And these things are like donut shaped, they say. And the apple in the logo for Mac is also kind of donut shaped, but it has the bite out of it. So it's like they've taken, and then obviously the Adam and Eve story is relevant in the whole situation because there was a bite taken and there was a snake and there was like, it's kind of funny, but it all kind of ties in. And at the same time, you've got everybody walled into this Apple ecosystem. Whereas me, I'm an Android guy and I love the Aliens collection. So I'm a bit of an alien in my thoughts. And so I like the idea that I'm on the outside of the Apple garden and not on the inside. In the same way that when we're stuck in the Matrix and Andrew Tate's talking about the Matrix and people don't get it, but like I get it because I see the world the way that he's seeing it now a little bit. Like I see where he goes wrong, I see where he goes right. I try to do my best to navigate and not make mistakes myself. But there's a lot going on in this world that people just have no idea about right now, I think. And Apple is most certainly a walled garden. Like I find people find difficulty like connecting to, like, if I send Spotify links to people, they're like, oh no, I use Apple Music, and it's like, oh, I can't do this because I'm stuck in here, you know. And I'm like, oh, I feel sorry for you. But also I love the M1 chips. I love their tech. I love how good they are at making creative tools. Like I can completely understand why artists would be like in it because it's
And I
just such
think as well, they used to.
it makes you feel safe too because, you know, like using crypto and stuff, like, I don't know, I feel PC maybe feels a little bit more exposed through its open source software and stuff.
Let's be honest as well. PCs used
Sorry,
to
long
be
story.
fucking ugly, didn't they? PCs did used to look ugly, and I think Macs, they aimed it at that market because they made these things look so slick. All the old iMacs, and I remember when there was
we had the eMac. My dad loved Macs when we were kids, and he always had them in his dentist, but he had like one in his reception at his dentistry because he wanted to look good when people came in. I think, you know, like we had the eMac was like blue or something. It was a big box you could pick up.
Yeah, did you remember the G5s as well? They were like the Studio Macs, and they were in a metal box thing, basically, the G5s, and they looked industrial, and they were mean looking, and they looked awesome. Like, of course, I wanted one of them. They were amazing.
I'm looking it up now.
I think it was called a G5. No, now you've made me Google it.
All right, man. It's 40 minutes into this chat. I don't know how long we're going to talk for. I've got a lot of other topics to cover, and I did want to ask if anyone else wanted to come up and ask questions. Yeah, go for it.
So you mentioned you paint graffiti around London, right?
Not anymore. I'm retired, but at one point in my time, yeah.
Okay, I really love graffiti, man, and it was one of the first art forms that got me super excited as a teenager. I was trying to paint, and I did some bullshit on some walls, But later on, I met some cool writers in Portugal. We were going around at midnight and painting. It was great. But what is amazing with the writers is that it's sort of like the NFT community. Like wherever you go in the world, you just hit up a writer and then you go painting together, and he shows you the spots. He
Yeah,
probably gives you a place to stay, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a huge community of writers like that, and there's my friend Arrow. He formed a graffiti crew called Heavy Artillery, and he formed it quite some time ago. But it was at the time it was one of the first graffiti crews that kind of brought in writers from all around the world, so from all around Europe. And he still travels around Europe now, like you say, hitting up all these people. He'd go over to Russia. He's got friends over there because of writing. He'd go over to Turkey. He went to Romania. He's painting over there. Like he would literally just go anywhere he could land up. But because of this, through this crew, he's just got this extended family of graffiti writers that he can just go and see anytime.
This
It's cool.
network was present even before the internet. I cannot even imagine now with the internet how connected writers are between them. It's amazing. It's something really wonderful.
Yeah, I Instagram was great for that before all the algorithm and the paid ads and crap like that. Instagram back in the day used to be great for finding not just other writers, but other artwork in general. That you could
And
just
before
discover.
Instagram, was it Flickr? Were you
Yes,
part of
yeah,
Flickr?
yeah. That was used heavily by the graffiti community as well.
Yeah.
There's some great pages on there.
Yes, I know, I know. It was such a trip, but I think it's not around anymore.
No, I know. I had a thing on there as well. I haven't used it for years, but it was great at documenting things and just yeah, people used to leave in the comments and stuff, and you'd meet people through there. It was cool.
Early 2010 nostalgia,
Damn, that long ago.
eh?
Jeez.
Like a decade ago, everything was happening on Flickr. I also would like to introduce you to All City, who also was a writer in the past. I don't know if he's active now. I also bought his books, so yeah, definitely I will get you guys to connect
Oh, nice.
because
Yeah,
it's good to know writers in general, right?
definitely, and definitely ones that are in this space as well.
For sure, for sure. But this is what always piqued my interest, and I always love graffiti and street arts in general because they so much adrenaline involved. The piece stays there. I always found it so captivating that my poor friends spend all their money on fucking spray cans to paint this wall in the middle of nowhere. It was always such a romantic thing to do in the middle of the night. I
But
also chipped in for spray cans a few times.
yeah, but it depends, doesn't it? It's like some people they have groups of friends and they meet up and they go to the pub and they will get drunk or whatever. But then you got, you can have this whole other thing going on with subculture where you don't do that. You go and meet up with your friends and you go out and you paint, or you go to like abandoned places and go and paint there. Or like you say, you stay up until everyone else is going to bed and you sneak around at night and go and paint. And then you get up during
Mate,
the day and you go and see it and no one knows that you did it and you walk around,
you know what the
you walk
difference is,
past
Viva,
alone.
between those two?
What's that?
There are
What?
the people that drink, and then there are the people that smoke, I believe. And the people that drink don't like the people that smoke.
That's
Because
so
like when you
true,
go out in the
maybe.
streets of London, you're doing graffiti art in the middle of the morning. I'm sure somebody's got a J there, at least one of
Yeah,
the guys, and then you might have a puff, you might not want to smoke, but like
that was true.
it's such a creative endeavor, and it's a Ja Rastafari thing that I think we represent with the fake res as well, and Redlion does, which is cool, and it's nice to see you guys like meeting each other and talking and like being a part of. I think Redline said it. We're making history here. You know?
Yeah, no, it's an honor to be part of this, man. I'm glad that you asked me.
I'm just
Yeah.
stoked that I mean, I was looking through my messages and I saw when I first messaged you saying, "Hey man, like I'm really keen to have you on board with this," and then it happened, and I'm very glad that it did. And same with everyone else who's a part of it. And actually, I was going to ask you, Redline, if you don't mind shouting out the people who are making this space happen, because it's not my work. Like,
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
if you don't mind shouting out the people who are working for Redline behind the scenes and making this space happen, and perhaps like tell us a little bit about how the Gazette's working and your Forever Punks book, because
Oh,
I
yeah,
talked to
for
Viva about
sure.
potentially a collaboration there.
Well, of course, we have Dudley, who is the heart of Gazette. Not only it's his art, but he does the web design, the sound design, everything management. He's like our little Da Vinci that we keep in our little jail, our little sweatshop.
He even has his own IPFS, I hear.
Yes. And of course, we have Amal. He's also here. He's a very talented artist. We have Luca. We have Steven, our editor. In general, we are a diverse team from all around the world, working day and night for our dear Red Lion project. It is our life's work. If you think about it, all your experiences are personal, they die with you. But after we die, the Red Lion will still be here, no matter how silly or not it is. People, people will actually use it to grasp how it was the times, uh, how the history was happening in real time, how people perceive events happening right now. So yeah, we think it's something really cool, and we're working really hard
It's all
on it.
timestamped too, man. It's so cool that everything's timestamped, because you can tell when relationships begun and you can see the branches of civilization, I think, digital civilization, which is quite cool.
I got interested about a writer lately who wrote the Book of Disquiet, Fernando Pessoa, and it's one of the most important pieces of Portuguese literature. And like the story behind the book was so captivating. The dude was writing the books, and he knew they are phew, literally masterpieces, but he just put them in like a little uh, he hid them in a basket or something, I don't know, to be published 100 years after his death. So it's
Wow.
so unique, man, and like it
Sounds
gave
like
me like
Shakespeare, man.
chills. Like I hope we get famous before we die. But yeah, even in the case that that's not the point, he was saying that people will see it in the future, and I will be happy after my death that people will read my words and will connect with it, and I will not be alone. And for the people who will say, "Oh, how misunderstood he was," and like on his time they didn't understand him, it's like that's not the point, and that's not what he wants. He is happy to have that connection without being present in the future. I think that is something that a lot of us will experience, and not through our work in Web3. I mean, like we will experience, but we will not be here to actually experience it. But
It's
yeah,
interesting,
sorry to
Redline,
go on
because
that tangent. Yeah.
it's interesting because your Portuguese friend who wrote this book sounds like Shakespeare, who wrote a very similar story. And I think if you don't know much about Shakespeare, I'm going to tag you in a tweet. Anybody who's listening to this, it'll be in the tweet thread for the show. But it's worth finding out who Shakespeare was. Shall we say that? And then we are doing something very Shakespearean ourselves here, because we're writing a script for a later world to perceive, I guess, where we know that there are people that aren't here that will be here, and we're leaving like breadcrumbs and traces everywhere for them at the moment. So we're doing something that is going to benefit perhaps us more after our death than during our lives, but that's the noble quest, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah,
So
sorry to go
in the
on that.
meantime, we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I went on a little tangent there. I was just thinking about it. But yeah.
Sweet. Shall we go back to Alcatraz swim team, perhaps, Viva, and you can tell us about the beginnings and the future, and perhaps something about swimmers for minters or something like that.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, it started. When did it start? It was over a year ago. Basically, there's a guy called Shower Shoes that I work with. He's in the fake rare community, and he's his background is as a music producer. He's worked with Skrilla, producing Benny the Butcher's album Pyrex Picasso, and he contacted me about putting together a story for a Pepe, an animated Pepe. I think it was in series 3 when you could start submitting cards that are in audio, because before that, from series 1, I think it was 1 until 3, you could only fake rares were basically only GIFs or JPEGs. There was no audio. You couldn't really do very complex animations because of the file size of the GIFs. And then series 4 was all audio, which then got turned into a vinyl.
Now we're doing AR, aren't we?
Yeah, look where it is now. So, but he basically, he came up with the story we were talking about of having, first off, Pepe the Vandal. So he was breaking into a train yard, painting the train, and then taking a picture of it. And then it was always going to be a 2-parter, because the second part, he goes to paint in San Francisco, and Pepe gets arrested, and then he gets put into Alcatraz. And that was my second fake rare I made, was that story animated. And then Pepe breaks out to go and paint the world with his friends. So then after that, we were talking about the possibility.
Can you tell me just the difference between Robot Love Coffee and Dank Set? Because I use both of them. I'm not incredibly familiar, but I know you've got like a set of cards on each of those. And I think the ones you're talking about are on Robot Love Coffee, but not on Dank Set.
Are they not on Dank Set? I didn't know they were Dank Set. Or you can look on Pepe WTF under Viva La Vandal.
There's so many places to look, isn't there?
Yeah. Generally, I think... Well,
is Pepe La Vandal the first one?
Yeah, Pepe La Vandal, L-A Vandal,
L-E.
and then La Vandal was the second one.
Okay, so L-E is the second one. All right, I'm going to post both of these in the thread.
Is this also a shout out to Lerat?
Oh, yeah. Well, see, that's an interesting... Arguably where Banksy got all his ideas from as well. I had a friend who was telling me about that before. So he was doing it way before him. And then Banksy came along and started running with the stencils after that.
Yeah. But he's also recognized for it, so that's why I asked.
Yeah. But I can't remember what I was saying now. But yeah, they were basically... those two together were kind of like the first and second fake rare, but it was all part of one story. And then after that one, we started talking about developing it, and if we could turn it into a bigger project, into like a full-on PFP. And then from there, I started drawing them, but obviously there were so many to draw. It took, I think...
So you had to go back to ETH for PFPs, I guess, didn't you? You couldn't do PFPs on XCP right now, I don't think. Maybe you can now with small groups of us, but I don't think it works in the same way as ETH does.
We did want to, like, we discussed it, we sat down, but as you say, the way that it works, it would have been a pretty huge upfront cost to do it. So for now, that wasn't a possibility. And also kind of think, as I'm learning now, like to get it to a bigger audience, it needs to be sitting on Ethereum really, because it's like 10,000 is a lot to be selling, and the community is kind of small. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's, to branch out and just shed more light on it, which I think has been good to me doing it, because before I wasn't really engaging with any other communities outside of that. So, it's got me chatting to a lot of other people and taking part in a lot of other things that I wasn't doing before.
Yeah, I think there's some, like when you think about bridges between crypto chains, like when I was first starting to learn about crypto, I was keen on learning about every single different chain. And like I've now dedicated myself to Bitcoin and Ethereum in a way where I am interested in what's going on other chains, but I'm not as interested as I once was. And they do build bridges. Like, it is all about
Yeah.
interoperability, and that was always one thing that got me interested, was the idea that everything would work with everything eventually. And yeah, like you say, like there are some Bitcoin maxis out there who probably in the Rare Pepe community, I'm sure there are some, because that's like an OG Bitcoin community. There's bound to be a couple of people who don't really care much for ETH, but there's a very, very big audience, and the idea of us literally building bridges between communities is quite fun.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see why you can. Artwork can exist on, wherever it wants, and you can just. And I think it's cool that you can have different projects on different chains that you can then switch over and learn about. So it's a constantly evolving thing. You can move. I might see a project on some chain I'd never been on, and it pops up, and if it looks interesting, then all of a sudden you can get involved in that, and you can, it can spiral all over the place. So yeah, there's a lot of bringing together communities.
Definitely. So basically, yeah, Alcatraz Swim Team, it started essentially on XCP as fake rares, and has now progressed through to the 10,000 PFP collection, which is available at alcatrazswimteam.com, which is a really cool website. I think you had some help from Skrilla and Dell, perhaps, and Shower Shoes, whoever Shower Shoes is, in the background guy.
Yeah, he's a more elusive character, but yeah, he's.
But we've gone from fake rares through to 10,000 PFP collection, which is still minting. But you mentioned something about perhaps giving a couple of those away today, so that'd be cool. And then I want to know what your plans are for the future of it. Like, what do you see? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I was going to do a giveaway for anyone that has minted this week's copy of the Redlion Gazette. I will send out a swimmer to, and I'll mint it from the contract, so it'll be unrevealed. So someone could end up with something really rare. There's 51 legendaries, and I think only about 12 or 13 of them have gone. So there's still a lot of ones in there. There's a one of one Skrilla one in there with an audio and animation as well. That hasn't come out yet. Norman Comics one. There's a lot of people's in there that haven't come out yet. Easy B, he's another sort of OG Rare Pepe artist. He's done one, hasn't come out yet. So there's a lot in there to be revealed. So yeah,
people can. They're minting for 0.02 ETH, aren't they? Which is, I think, like incredible pricing. Like, it makes sense to me, because I don't know if you did the math on it before you did it. I'm sure you did, or you had someone else who looked at it.
Probably not.
The idea that you're selling 10,000 of these things for 0.02, like when a lot of profile pictures at the moment are selling, like my Aliens collection is higher than that at a floor price of like 0.5 or 6, maybe 8, maybe 0.08, sorry, 0.05 or something like that. Like, not a great deal higher, like double, maybe 3x what yours is selling, minting for. And like, you get 200 ETH out of that, which is a chunk to redevelop and use to like build the comic out, right? Like, you only would imagine reinvesting that money that you make, I imagine, back into what you're creating, because that's where your brain's going anyway.
Yeah, I've got some products that I'm designing now that I want to do. We're going to use the burn to earn function in the contract that Indel's put together. So
I saw something about burn for physicals as well on the website.
Yeah, that's what one of these is going to be. So I'm working on finishing the design for that to get it produced. And then there's, a few other things that we're keeping secret at the moment, but we're going to be rewarding people with, if they choose to, because people could not burn them, but there's going to be the option to that people can to get rewarded with other things.
It's quite fun too, just to see the way that the currency starts to flow. And I don't know, talking to in real life people, they sort of the opinion that you have to buy Bitcoin or you have to have money to make money, but like in this community, like you just join a group of people like yours, and like there are jobs available essentially, like within some communities where the ETH can get redirected and facilitate growth and help other people in other places as well, which is awesome. You can reinvest in other artists, you can do so much, like, and you can actually earn this currency. Like, people don't understand that, I think, in the real world at the moment, but it's quite exciting to watch these projects get built out. And like, I could see this quite easily becoming a movie, like we're watching Alcatraz Swim Team the movie one day. Like, why not?
Yeah, I'd love that. That would be great. Oh, it's
I also had an
also
idea for you about doing kicks. I know you do watches and you do fashion. Like you've got a lot of other things going on in real life outside of Alcatraz Swim Team that blends in so well with it. But I was thinking about, would you do like an Adidas collab or like a Nike collab and make some shoes?
yeah. I've done custom Air Force Ones before, and
I bet, yeah.
they're really cool to do. I made a custom box and everything for them. I used to be heavily into making loads of custom, well, and doing product design because I did that for other companies. But yeah, making the custom Casio digital watches, which I'm also giving to people who have more than 100 Alcatraz swimmers. They get a free, well, not free because they've just bought 100 swimmers, but
A 2 cost them 2 I think.
yeah. Yeah, they get a custom digital watch that I've made, and I started off making them years ago. I
And they
used
get a
to
wallet
make
full
them.
of 100 swimmers, which
Yeah,
is awesome. Because they're all so unique, aren't they? Like the traits and like the artists that have helped collaborate with you to create the collection. Like there's a lot going on in there, and there's a lot of cool like different hands and different eyes and different mouths and different backgrounds and different all sorts.
yeah. There's a lot of references to Rare Pepe cards as well, famous
Yeah,
ones, and there's some that are not so famous that you have to dig a bit deeper. And the backgrounds as well. If people are looking at the backgrounds, some of the backgrounds are references to Rare Pepe
there's
cards
some
as
Grant
well.
Yun references in there, isn't there? There's some
Yeah, a lot of
shout out
film
some of the names, man.
references. Yeah, then there's some. If you look at the traits as well, some of them you wouldn't be glaringly obvious, but then when you see them come together as legendaries and you look at the traits, you realise that they're all referencing the same thing, and it kind of makes
Yeah.
sense. But yeah, we
Has the full NATO with the globe in the hand dropped?
no Pepinado's one's still
That's
out.
that's
Well,
bound to
still
be
locked
a
up.
real one.
Yeah, yeah, there's
And that's
a
the
lot.
other thing as well. You've got like some of them have got rare or legendary. I mean, the legendaries have legendary written on the background, don't they?
Yes,
Or
yeah,
some of them do at least. I don't know about some of those one of ones made by different artists if they use that same template. But like you've got ones that say rare on them, and you've got ones that say common on them. I think, or something like that.
yeah. The artist ones, they all did their own backgrounds. Like T Wade, who I was speaking to last weekend on the Spaces, he hand painted all of the layers of his one. His one's like a Pepe Kobe Bryant, and so he painted every single layer of that. And
That's I also love that because we've got a lot of Kobe references in the Alcatraz swim team, and then the art that you created for Redlion is Kobe related too, which is cool. And
yeah,
with I think there'll be lots more NBA inspired art in the future for sure.
yeah, definitely. And his jacket as well. I loved making that Kobe jacket for that one as well. It's got some of
Yeah, I
the
had
same.
a Redline actually asked me if we could change the hat because he thought it was the actual Lakers logo, and I said no. If you look carefully, you'll see that's an F for fakers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fakers.
No, it's because someone can like make the NFT like from in OpenSea. The companies are claiming their copyrights and shit. But
Yeah,
when you put logos, the logo is the most sensitive part, and it looked like it was the Lakers logo, but it wasn't.
you looked carefully and then it realized it was fake.
Yeah, exactly. It was fakers.
If I made it, it's definitely fake.
No, but that was really nice because Sillery he zoomed in and you posted a picture and said, "But it's not Lakers, Red. It's fakers."
Did we want to perhaps get someone to just jump up and say hello? Because I like doing that. I like involving other people. I don't know if anyone wants to put their hand up.
Put your hands up, people.
If not, we can talk about Arrow and Goldie and some of the other street artists who've inspired and worked with you. Dude. I know you did some pretty cool work with Goldie on Foundation.
Yeah.
So I think they're in real life pieces, aren't they?
No, they were.
Or is it all digital?
Yeah, that was all digital. That was all 4D stuff. I started speaking to Goldie about doing NFTs quite quite a while ago, probably like a year and a half ago, and didn't quite know what to do to start with because we wanted to go. Obviously, it had to incorporate his music because it's got to. So he sent me some outlines that he'd done over the years, and we took the outlines, built them into like, so they looked, as you've seen in the animation, they looked like physical things, and dipped them in chrome and had a white finish on them, and then sort of set them in so it looked like it was sitting in a gallery, so you could go around this thing, around the whole letters, and really appreciate the letter form as well. And then because it was dipped in chrome, we had it spin, and then you could see Goldie's reflection in it, and then it zoomed into the back wall and went into the original painting. So, I mean, they were pretty long for animations. For rendering, it was a nightmare because obviously you go through quite a few versions of it. And he was like, "Oh, I want to see it again." I was like, "Man, how long is it going to be so I can see it?" I was like, "Well, I've got to send it to a render farm." I was like, "It's not going to be, it's going to take a little while." But it
I
was
just
good.
posted that one in the tweet thread as well. For anyone who doesn't know, can you explain as well a little bit about who Goldie is? Because I didn't know much about Goldie when I found out about him, but he's a UK legend from what I understand.
Yeah, I think he's an example. I've personally speaking, I think he's a great example for other creators of how you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into one particular thing. Goldie started off in the UK. Well, he actually started off as a graffiti writer. He got into the Tats crew in New York, but this was back in the late 80s. Yeah, it was late 80s when he was a young kid, not even from London, from Wolverhampton. So he managed to get in and affiliated with arguably one of the biggest graffiti crews and well respected. And then, so he was a painter for many years, and he still is. And then he moved back, came to London, and basically was fundamental in developing drum and bass as a sound. And he made the album Timeless, which is a classic album. And then formed his own record label with Metalheads. And then he went on to acting as well. He was in a few films. He's been in Lock, Stock, Guy Ritchie film. He was in a film with David Bowie as well. I can't remember the name of it now, but he became friends with David Bowie from working in that with him. And yeah, he's got a lot of creative things always going on. Like, he's a guy, you sit with him, his mind works at 100 miles an hour. But he's
Everybody Loves Sunshine, apparently, is the movie.
That's the one. It's a good film.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so that's a sort of brief recap of who he is. But yeah, he's worth looking up because he's an interesting guy. There's lots of interviews of him talking, and there was a really good documentary on Sky over here he did recently about his journey through art, and from his early days as a graffiti writer, and then how it led him around the world, and all the people he'd met and the people that inspired him. It was a really good documentary.
So you've worked with him, and I think the other one I mentioned was Arrow.
Yeah, Arrow's another graffiti writer from the
I think
UK.
Arwen did come up here, though. I don't know if he wants to jump up. Say hello. Of course it would be.
Hey, I just wanted to say,
mate, how's it going?
Yeah, loving the show, bro. Just coming to say that. But I have a serious question. Really interesting to hear other people's stories. But I lived in London as well and started DJing and doing art back in like Southeast London in like the late 90s. So I'll show my age. But I wanted to ask about Vandal. Is that one of my big inspirations, like coming from Wales down to London? I remember the first time was like, there was this guy called Fume, basically, and he just used to tag his name everywhere. I just wanted to ask if you knew about him, or and also who were your favorite inspirations when you were living in London that time going around? Like, but tell me if you know anything about Fume. I'd love to know.
Yeah, Fume is DDS. He's part of like arguably one of the best, with the most tradition, I would say, crews in London. And Fume was still active, I think, until not that long ago. He still gets out and about, but he's a legend. I used to see Fume everywhere. He's another guy from the same crew he's in called DDS. I would say he's one of the people who inspired me as well, called Zombie. And he used to write everywhere, but he had this character that he used to paint that it looked like a character. It was really simplistic, but it had a really fat outline. So it was kind of like a robotic character with this huge afro. And he used to just draw it with one eye. And sometimes it wouldn't have any eyes. And sometimes it would just like have this one line down its face. And it was like crazy simple, but had a ton of style on. And they actually went, a lot of the people from that crew, DDS, they went to start a shop called Chrome and Black, which is still in East London. I think they moved to Hackney Wick, actually, which is a great shop. It's a graffiti supply shop and general place to hang out for writers.
That's so interesting. I went with my friend, and my friend's still a massive fan. We talk about it all the time, and I don't see him about, but I remember even walking down like to Waterloo on like London Bridge or something like that, and like you right in the most crazy places where you think you'd never ever get to, you know. And he just, after all that, he just goes, "Phew."
Yeah.
And he goes, they're like, "Bro, you're killing it right now."
They're the ones that you see where you'll be driving on a motorway or something. You're on the M25 and you look up at the flyover thing and you see it on the side there. You think, "Fuck, how's he got up there?"
Genius. That's dedication. That's like raw for me. And like whatever, Banksy, fair enough, bro. Like you said, you know the story. And I like everybody like doing stuff, but I got so many questions about more questions about Banksy than I got about Ethereum, to be honest. But still into the art. I just wonder what's going on there.
There's a funny story, actually, man. Goldie obviously knows Banksy and his real identity as such. But if you look back at a few interviews where he talks about it, he drops his real name in interviews, and I swear he does it on purpose to fuck with him. If he and he casually throws first name out there, and you can see him kind of go, "What? Who? Bank?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, Banksy." But I swear he puts it out there as a wind up.
I've seen him do that on Twitter before. I've seen him do it about NFT. There's some like anonymous NFT artist as well. Actually, that's true. It's not the first. I smoked a joint with him on a train from London to Liverpool when we were coming back from university, and it was like, well, you know, when you couldn't smoke anymore in the normal carriages, but you could smoke in the in-between section. And he was in like, he was going up to DJ in Liverpool. And at the time, I remember going like, I was like 20, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a drum and bass DJ." And he was actually like super sound. So I shared a joint with him, had a bit of a chat. What a ledge. Goldie's a ledge. I've seen him DJ quite a bunch of times.
Yeah, he is, man. He's a character, all right.
I actually can't say some of the stories I want to say, so I'm just going to get off, but I just wanted to ask my question. And that's it. Thanks for having me. I'll tell you when we hang out in person.
Before it gets too X-rated.
Yeah, it's better not for Twitter.
Oh, man.
Cheers, Al. All right. I guess there are a bunch of other people you've worked with, aren't there? Not just Goldie and Arrow, and not just Fake Rare community members, but some people like LL Cool J and Method Man and Apollo Brown, Guilty Simpson, Fat Joe, and officially now Redlion.
Yeah.
There's a few people that you've worked with in the past. And is there anybody who stands out? I know LL Cool J is the story that you told on the Killer Keller podcast, so I don't know if that's the standout and the one that you would want to bring up again, or if there's something else that we don't know about you and who you've worked with that might be interesting for people to hear. And also, if you can just tell us a little bit about what you did for Redlion and the NFT MV Pepe, because we talked about the jacket and we talked about it briefly before, but we haven't actually formally discussed the art, which I think is important. So if you can cover off some of that, that'd be awesome, man.
That was a lot to cover. Hang on.
It's just people you work with and the art. Just put it that way.
Okay, man. Well, you know, I've worked with quite a few people in the music industry. I think I went through a stage because I was a freelance creative, so you kind of have to stay so busy just because you got to eat, so you got enough money. So I went through a stage of just trying to look at people where my artwork fitted in what, you know, who would it appeal to. So I would deliberately try and find ways to work with the people like you mentioned, but obviously you have to come up with some sort of plan that you're producing something that's going to be worthwhile to them. So I'd look at things that they were doing and try and develop things like with Method Man. That I knew that he had companies coming out where he was selling his own weed and stuff.
I love the meal prep branding, man.
Yeah, for Takao.
That's one of the favorite photos you sent through to me was that one with just the shirt, just the stage lighting and everything. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Because like in New Zealand, obviously we had a referendum on weed, I think a couple of years ago, and it didn't quite get there. It was just under 50%, but we're hoping next time people like me, obviously, that we get over the line, and to see that the stuff that's possible in other countries, and to know that I know you and you've done that for someone, and that if I needed you to help out over here, you probably would, is just awesome, because we can bring those sorts of ideas to the world at pace, you know, like.
Yeah, I got a friend as well in Europe who's he's setting up a thing at the moment to grow and actually sell to one of the European governments, but that's for medicinal purposes, not for.
I know in Thailand they legalized it and they sent out houseplants for everyone, which is quite cool.
Did they? I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, for Metaphor, I was mainly doing that, but I went out of my way to sort of force that opportunity by creating something that would work for them.
You got to do your own research, right?
Yeah, do your research. I found out what companies you had done. I created something that could work for it. So, and then I found out who he was running with. I contacted them and I sent it to him, and I was like, look, I could create this for you. This is how this would work. And then once you kind of get your foot in the door, just made sure that I was easy to work with and that I just came through with the things I said I was going to do. And then, you know, just make life easy as possible.
I think that's a big part of I think that's a big part of our Web3 world is like this Redlion stuff. I promised that I would deliver, and so now I have to make sure I deliver. You know, like if I don't wake up for a space, or if I like don't get shit to them on time so that they can do their job, so that this can all run smoothly, then I'm letting myself down and I'm letting everyone else down. And you would have felt like you're in the same position with these guys. You put in all the work to get there, and you know that you were the one battling yourself the whole time anyway. So you got to keep going.
It's about completing things, and then
you have to hold your promises. You know, like
if you know you've got someone like that on the other end, and you've got a direct line to them, then you're going to make sure everything that you're doing.
I think that's how we build trust. Like we make promises and we deliver. And if we fail to deliver, then our community is going to fall apart. And I was listening to a space yesterday because our Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has just stepped down. She's resigning on the 6th of February or something, I think. But Kim.com was hosting the space, and he's an internet warrior of sorts who has lived in New Zealand, might still live in New Zealand, I think. And he did one of those torrent type websites where you could download movies for free and whatnot. I can't remember what it was called, but in his space with a bunch of politicians talking about like there's no trust in politics, and I'm like, shit, these people have no idea how we build trust, and it's through, you know, the Freemasons. They had this handshake, and they believed that once you made the handshake, you were meant to fulfill the promise. Like we have that same gentleman's agreement or handshake going on here, where we don't want to fall short of our own promises, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a shared common goal, isn't there? Right, certainly from what I've experienced with everyone in this space.
Not to get too into Freemasonry, but those guys aren't the bad guys. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, okay, man. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see the Freemasons.
They're just philosophers, I think. That's all they are. And they might have built the pyramids, but who knows?
Well, they did a good job on them.
What was it you were talking to me? You watched something late at night.
Oh man, I'm a sucker for documentaries late at night. I love it, man. Apart from
big hairy ones by chance?
Bigfoot, man. I watch a lot of Bigfoot. I was talking to Norman Comics about it after our last chat. So I messaged him literally like an hour after that. Started chatting about Bigfoot. But yeah, I love them, man. And all the ancient aliens and everything like that, man. I'm always watching them. They're great, man. Well, my wife thinks it's hilarious.
That's basically our version of watching the news, right? Like we don't watch the news because that's just a bunch of fear mongering.
No,
like
we watch YouTube videos about
apes that may or may not exist.
Yeah, I want to watch a bunch of dudes in the woods looking for a giant gorilla thing or whatever, man. It's way more entertaining.
The funniest one that always gets me is the stoned ape theory, because it's a conspiracy about how apes may have started smoking or dropping acid or something, and that's how they developed. But it's not a theory. It's happening. We are the stoned apes. Like we got Bored Ape profile pictures, some of us, if you can afford them, and we're smoking weed and chatting about art. Like Like I said at the start, we are artificially intelligent, I think.
Oh, I love that, man. That's great. But I forgot what I was saying now, man, before we went off on a Bigfoot one.
We were talking about Method Man, the stuff that you've done for him.
Yeah. But to be honest, I don't really work for over the last year. I've kind of wound up working for other people in that sense, just because I'm a full-time frog drawer. So, you know, I still do t-shirt designs and things like that for people here and there. But
how much? Yeah, what's your balance now like? Is it like 90% Web3 and 10% real life, or? And obviously, do you plan on resurrecting that balance and getting more real life work done with the exposure that you get through Web3? I hope. Maybe.
Not really. I don't really want to do too many. I spent so long doing things. I have a nice balance at the moment because I do animation for other people as well within Web3. So I do that. I'm doing one at the moment. It's a massive job. That's going to take a while to finish, but it's going to be great when it's finished. But then also you have a balance of creating physical art through fake rares and all of the galleries that we've done, and through getting to know Chris and that Scarce City. I've got an outlet to create physical things. So if I ever get to a point where I'm like, oh, I need a break from drawing at the screen or whatever, then I know I can create physical artwork, and I've got outlets for it through there. So that's the sort of balance at the moment. I'm not really taking on other work or doing things in that sense for other people anymore, because also it's kind of like you don't have creative freedom when you're doing that. I spent nearly all of my working career before that working as a creative to other people's briefs. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's beautiful about minting your own artwork, and the thing is, you're in complete creative control of direction of whatever you want to do. You haven't got anyone telling you, oh no, you know, it's got to look like this, or you haven't got to run it past a whole team of people, which I had to do for so long as my job. That was, you know, you run it through. Yeah. And a lot of the times your idea that you initially have, that you fall in love with, gets diluted, watered down to the point where you don't really want to do it, but now you've got to do it. So you're going through the motions, and you know, that can kill your spirit, kill your creative spirit for sure. So I'm not I'm not looking to go back to that.
Yeah, definitely. We have some cool tools as well with like Manifold on ETH and Robot Love Coffee backing up the XCP creators experience. Like it's so easy when someone else comes along to just say, here's how you do it for yourself. And then to watch, like we had a friend of Arwen and I's, Paolo, who just released something on Manifold, and he was asking 1 second how it works. And then the next day he's like, hey guys, I got my first open edition up. And we're like, oh, yo, cool. Like the shit happens quick. But do you see yourself slowing down, I guess? Do you see yourself like relaxing and enjoying life more and drawing less frogs? Or do you see your creative juices flowing?
I'm speeding up. I'm going foot to the floor all year. But I'm
talking about decades ahead, perhaps, not just years ahead.
No, because drawing's what I do. Like, if I had spare time, I'd be drawing. It's what I enjoy doing. So, like, I haven't got anything to retire from, because I'm already doing what I would be doing if I was retired. Like, this is all I like doing. So,
for sure.
Obviously I spend time with my kids and stuff, and we chill. I'm around to like see my sons. So, that's a blessing. So
I'd like to see that swimming pool that Pepper was taking his vacation in the other day in your backyard at some point, man.
Oh, I'd love it. You wouldn't want it in the UK though; it'd be horrible.
Yeah, perhaps not. Free. You have to go out to Greece and meet Redlion.
Yeah,
that's where he is.
Definitely somewhere warm. That would be a must.
I think the Egyptians were Greek too, actually.
Well,
so the Freemasons, perhaps.
Oh man, no.
We did. So the other bit that I was going to ask you about was the art piece itself.
Yeah. So the Pepe as Kobe, I think, for one, that image of Kobe Bryant, I think, is so powerful on its own. And it's an image I've wanted to draw. I've actually tried drawing before, and it was a really tough one to crack, that I just couldn't get it right where I was happy with it. And it wasn't as a Pepe before. I tried to draw it as a graffiti thing years ago. Couldn't pull it off. So it kind of just sprung in my head, because to me, I kind of see Pepe, certainly from my point of view, as the most valuable player in this game, because of how important it's been to me and to a lot of other people. So I just wanted to, for me, it fitted perfectly. And then I wanted to incorporate everything, try and put little hints of the history with the Nakamoto card and the year and that going down the side of the jacket, and a few of the other important cards put on there as well. And then obviously adding the fake rares on the Lakers as well. But to me, it sat perfectly. I thought it worked.
Did you know the story that I wrote up alongside it? I didn't actually know that before I started writing about it. Before you gave me the art, I then had to go and do some research as to why he looks so down.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I was surprised to read it. I always assumed that it wasn't so much sadness. It was more like, I'm the fucking man sitting there like that. It was more of like, I'm hitting the pinnacle type thing right now. Like, I didn't realize there was that whole angle to it that you were saying about where he'd fallen out with his parents and they wouldn't come to see. And yeah, so that was interesting.
I had no idea, but he'd just married Vanessa, who his parents told him was not the woman for him, and therefore didn't come to see his finals appearances that year, because I think they got married in early 2001, and then the finals was like May or June or something like that. But basically, she turned out to be the right woman, I think, and his kids are incredible, and he is incredible. And like I said about my dad and your dad before, like, he's still here as much as he ever was because we're making art about him, you know, like he's influenced our thought and our memories, and he will always be on this planet. And his family is like, I don't know, they live in the city of angels, and they're like all incredible. Like, Vanessa seems incredible, and I don't know what the parents didn't see in her, but it's funny because it's kind of like Pepe. Like, people don't think he's incredible, but we do.
Yeah, he's
the
just
like the story seemed to match the art so well. I was like, thanks. I didn't expect it, and I don't think anybody really knows that full story. And I hope I quoted the right story, because if I put something on blockchain that's not true, then we're in trouble.
There's no going back. But yeah, I hope everyone likes it. I really enjoyed creating it.
I love it.
Yeah, I have to say, I really do like it. So it's available now, isn't it? Till the end? Is it till Sunday?
Yeah, I think it goes through till basically Sunday, Monday. Monday for me because I'm in New Zealand, but Sunday night for everyone else. I don't know if I think there's not actually a specific time. I think we just release them on that first day of each week, if Redlion can confirm that.
Yeah, and then there's, as I said, anyone that mints a copy of the Redlion set
he's
for
just
this
listening.
week will get, if they contact me with their eFaddy, and that I can mint out a free Alcatraz swimmer to them. That will be an unrevealed one. So hit me up.
I'm just going to post the link in the thread for the space, which will say buy your Gazette at gazette.red, and drop the OpenSea link to your asset here, because I think if they do that, you'll be able to see that they have the asset in their wallet, and then you can mint them a swimmer and send it across to them as well.
Perfect. Sounds good, man.
What else do we have to cover? I wanted to just briefly touch on Basement, because I know that you're a part of that community, and that's a pretty cool project that's happening on XCP. I wanted to also just mention like how safe XCP is, because I know what happened to that friend of ours recently happened on ETH, and these kind of things can't really happen on XCP because your wallet is not actually designed to be dealing with smart contracts in the same sense. It's more of like dispensers and like affirmative actions as opposed to reactionary responses to other people's bullshit, whatever they're doing online. Like, I hate these people that are taking shit off us without working for it, but there's always going to be these people in the world, and XCP is quite safe. And Basement is a XCP project, and we have a bunch of other XCP projects I won't talk about, but Basement, how do you come into that one? How long have you been in there? Are you very involved with it? I don't know, but there are some cool hip-hop artists and DJs and things that work in the background with fake rares like Rare Skrilla and others. So what do you know about Basement?
Yeah, I think it was Skrilla that invited me to the group first, because it turned out, just as Fake Rares was going on, that there was a lot of people within that community that had a sort of musical background or were from that sort of industry. And when we started doing series 4, when it was all audio and we put together vinyl from it, it became clear that, you know, there's a lot of people who could be doing music things. So I got invited to that group, and me and Shower Shoes again, I did the animation for our one. Shower Shoes did the beats for it. And we put that into the first series. And it's just an interesting group. I like the whole aspect of it. I think there's a lot of things that could be done musically on XCP because of the way it's structured, where you could essentially have an album cover. Someone could mint that album cover, and then you could start dropping them the tracks, say as an EP, because you could drop them underneath that as a separate layer, say as sub assets. So the one NFT effectively houses all of the rest of them. So I think that's a really cool thing that could be done and explored on
It's
there.
crazy because I heard somebody say recently I think it was in a Mikaboshi space or something, it was when you own a piece of someone's art, you essentially own a piece of their soul. Like the artist has fragmented themselves and given part of themselves to you. And like to hear you talking about tracks like that, and I know there's a guy called Rodro who's worth checking out. He does Pepe's on ETH, and he has got this thing called the green card and the black card. And the green card is a 12-month subscription, but the black card is a lifetime subscription to his art. And so like you could have one album, and then you could keep releasing music under the album, and people could collect new tracks every year for the rest of their life. That album can be something that it couldn't have otherwise possibly been without the tools that we have here, I guess. Like,
well, it's a great connection.
And the idea of like, the idea of having a lifetime deal is just mental. Like a real lifetime deal, not one that's promised to you and then the company goes bust, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what's cool. Like, it can be that sort of connection that you could have if you minted something on XCP and you drop them the sub assets or whatever. You could carry that on. And I know Skrilla's done things like that where you can upload other tracks and bonus material and you can send them out to them. So you've got that connection with them. But I think there's a lot.
I think Kane Mayfield is one to mention. He's definitely probably in basement, but he's also done some cool things with music. And I don't know if it was him and Skrilla did the one together where you can like choose the different parts of the track. Like it's like they've got the Kanye stem player, like that thing where you can turn up the bass or turn up the drums or turn up the guitar or turn up the vocals sort of thing, like, but with the stems that they have on blockchain. And like, I think to change it, you need to own that stem.
Nice.
Or maybe you need to own the whole asset and you can play with all the stems, but you can also see the history of like what the song sounded like before when other people owned it, which is just like incredible.
See, that's great. And this is what I was talking to Killer Keller about. I was trying to talk to him about just, I think first is planting the seed of knowing in people's heads, especially musicians, that they can come across to XCP and do these things. And then I think they can just start to explore themselves and discover more. Because I'm like that. The more I've discovered about it, the more I've become a stronger and stronger believer in it and just more and more interested in it. It's a rabbit hole, isn't it, when you start going down?
Yeah, definitely. Like it changes your perspective of everything. I think it changes your perspective of time a little bit because I know other friends that are waking up and saying, "Oh God, it's Monday," and I'm just waking up and going, "Thank God the sun's still shining. I got another chance. I'm going to go again, and I don't care what day of the week it is." Like, and that's the whole mentality of like lifetime deals and like different ways of thinking about things, and like time all of a sudden doesn't mean what it did before. And I feel like I've got a lot of time ahead of me instead of I don't know what I'm doing with my time, you know, like, but you still got to keep appointments, so you got to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and I got to get my son to school on time. I can't be there.
Yeah. But yeah, no, basement's pretty sick.
Yeah, everyone should check it out.
We've
got a Telegram group going, and everyone, likewise with Fake Rares, like it's the sort of thing where you can jump in and just ask as many questions as you will, and like there'll be
basically meet the devs.
And then people will just come up and they'll talk you through it. They can chat about it. Like there's no one in there who's going to be, you know, I don't know, judge you or anything like that. It's a really welcoming community.
There are people that get kicked out of communities sometimes, though, aren't there? I know.
Yeah.
Rare Skrilla did that. Apparently, it's a rite of passage. You might get kicked out of one at some point.
Yeah. Well, this is how it started, isn't it? There wouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly.
There wouldn't even be a fake rares if it wasn't for Skrilla getting banned.
He took one for the team.
Yeah. Breaking rules, creating communities.
We got anyone else in here that wants to jump up and say hello? Skrilla's there. Dr. Scratch and Sniff is there. Espresso's there. Mance is here. One of my alien friends. We got an alien space coming up later today, actually. I think it should be quite interesting, hopefully.
Oh, nice.
Some founders that don't really talk much, but they are apparently coming to talk for once, and it doesn't happen regularly enough for us. But there's the difference between XCP and an ETH project that you don't know anything about the founders on. Like, I mean, I know Punk 6529 and Debussy and Punk Vandalay, and there's quite a few crypto punks that are involved in the Aliens project, so I think it's quite cool.
Nice.
And they worked with like 16 different artists to do their initial collection as well, so they got all these one-of-one rares, a bit like Alcatraz Swim Team, which is quite interesting to see. And I know that they've got the good thing. Arwen was actually one of the artists who worked on the project with them in the early days, but it's gone a bit quiet since, and we're waiting for this big burn event, and apparently a lot of aliens are going to die, so it should be quite fun. People are going to send some aliens away to burn addresses in order to receive artwork from people like ACK and I don't even know, Xcopy and stuff. Arwen, probably. All right, we got one request. Who's coming up here? Skrilla. Yo, what's up, dog? I'm approving. It might wait. Is he here? What's up, Skrilla?
Yo, what up?
How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? Yo, I just wanted to say big up to Redlion for hosting this and showing love to Viva. I try to tell everybody I know about Viva as well. I think everybody should pay attention to him. He's like, I have only known Viva. I've never met him in person, to be honest with you, but I've only known him for like a year and a half, and he's like one of my best online friends. I feel like he's like a champion of Pepe's memetics, and he's like the most prolific motherfucker. He comes from like similar backgrounds of music and art, and I definitely like to make sure he gets champion. He's been a huge help to Fake Rares, like behind the scenes even. So he's a humble motherfucker, so it's good to see him getting this light shine on him.
For real.
Thank you,
Skrilla. Skrilla, could you tell us about your background in music and art as well? Just a little bit. I don't get to talk to you too often, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about like how you got to Fake Rares and that sort of stuff, but you don't have to go on.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna do a small space and at 5 o'clock in like 18 minutes. So I'll actually, if y'all want to jump on and listen, I should be talking a little bit about that. But I mean, briefly, I've been a music producer and DJ for a long time. Put out a lot of albums. I worked behind the scenes. I ran some studios. I ran a record label. I was doing events, all types of, all that stuff. I stumbled on the, Bitcoin in 2013-ish, made an album about the Silk Road, kind of tried to sell it for Bitcoin, had a hard time, got into Pepe shortly after, and because, art on the blockchain, all that, and pretty much just, I haven't stopped since then. I even stopped doing music for a while and just focused solely on art, which was like, what I did when my younger years was all art. I was a art major, all that stuff. But then music took over, and so I've actually been, art kind of like just blew up for me over the last 5-6 years. And at the same time, I've jumped into music and out of music, and I did the Benny the Butcher album last year, the Rome Streets and Uncle John album, K Beta album, the Bitcoin album, Sound Money, all during the bear market of 2019, and they all came out over the last couple of years. And then right now, 2023, I'm working on a ton of music again. I just actually got a song back with with Benny and El Camino and stuff. It's coming out soon, and we got the big project. And all that said, I got the Async Music project, which is like my baby I've been working on with Ruminate and some others the past few months. So it's a generative music art project with about 250,000 different outputs, and 420 will get minted. I have a Discord if anybody's interested in coming, checking that out. And of course, the Fake Rares is like our baby, keeping the Pepe spirit, memetics alive, and I'm out here trying to support as much, art and music. And I see CP down there doing he does some crazy shit too. Arwen, everybody, man. Like Pork Chop has just made a crazy joint. So I mean, shout out to everybody. Honestly, it's been a crazy little ride lately. So that's about it.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much for coming up and telling us a little bit about you, because everything you said about Viva, I'm sure we would reflect back at you. You deserve that light shone on you like fucking mad.
And that's all good, man. I really am happy to see Viva getting a light. And I really, man, the Alcatraz swim team is just a crazy project, man. I'm not really like huge into PFPs. I'm rocking the Dark Farm Smalls because I fuck with Dark Farms as well. But it's really like a super crazy art project. I think that people are just we're not shillers really. So I mean, we just do the work and hopefully word of mouth spreads. It's kind of like how we've always done our art and music, I think. And it's the same thing with this project. Eventually, it'll mint out. I'm 100% positive on that. But we're not going to force anybody. We're not going to call anybody up and be like, "Yo, go shill my stuff. I want to give you some free shit." Like people have told us, like, go do that, but that's not really our vibe. It's like, I know that Viva has already provided, like, you hold it 10 pieces, you get a fake rare, which, his fakes are, legendary, stuff like that. We have a, Viva just sent me over some early stuff that we're doing. I'll give you a little alpha. We have a fake weed coming out soon. So sometime this year. And we've been working, the swimmers are all up in the promo for that. So it's gonna be crazy.
It's like the fake art basil, huh? Or fake basil.
Yeah, it's like that, but this is real weed. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
nothing's actually fake, is it? I don't know.
Everything's
Maybe it's
fake.
all fake.
It depends where you are. You know what I mean? Like somewhere in outer space, this is all fake. And somewhere here, a lot of the stuff we work with fake art and fake money and fake everything, man. Like all y'all people are fake to me. I barely know any of y'all in real life. I mean, so what's really good, I embrace it. I think fake rares is very meta. Like people just look at it like, oh, it's just like fake Pepes, but fake.
It's an evolutionary thing, right? Like even looking at your small, and Viva's Alcatraz swim team member next to each other in the space here. Like one's an evolution of the other. I think Viva's wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dark Farms, or vice versa, perhaps. Even though Dark Farms probably came first.
Possibly. I can't remember when Dark Farm started, but I know Viva started the swimmer stuff over a year ago, like a year and a half. Like when he first made his first fake rare, that was the evolution. That was where the genesis of swimmers. You can just look at the piece and see.
So they're just all evolving off of one another's theories and memetics. Like they're all intertwined.
That's it. That's the important part. It's all evolving off of memetics and people's thoughts and viruses on the internet. I mean, we're all sick. Like that's basically it. Like I think collecting is a disease. To be honest with you, we all have a disease because it's not natural. Like we have too much free time if we're collecting. We're not out here like defending ourselves against jaguars and dinosaurs and shit. We like are actually like so
Dude,
bored
guys,
in
I
life
was
that we're
watching a
here
show the other night.
be creative.
I was watching a show the other night with dudes that were fucking like out in the swamps catching snakes for a living, and we're drawing
like, that's just kind of ill. Like I don't really want to do that, but like I have a lot of respect for people that do that. Like I mean, that could be us eventually. I mean, 2030 is around the corner, so who knows what's really going to happen. We can get into all that too, but yeah.
We're all going to be in Miami at some point.
Hey man, I'm not far, so whenever y'all are in Florida, that's where I'm at. Holler.
We're going to come see the Everglades or whatever they're called.
I'm gonna jump down though. I appreciate the light, and again, man, support Viva and everything he does, and all that for real. Thank you.
Definitely.
And
Post up
thank
your
you,
link to
see
your.
Lori, thank you too. You've been a big bonus coming around here lately. So appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Post up your link to your space because I'm definitely going to get along to that. It turns out space is all day for me. Viva, I don't know if you want to wrap up or give us some final thoughts about where we're going, what Alcatraz swim team is. I know Skrilla's just done a wonderful review and it will mint out. Like it's only a matter of time. We're not going to push it on people, but it is probably one of the coolest projects that I am honored to be a part of, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's as Skrilla was saying, really. We're not marketers and stuff. We didn't have a plan like that. We were just all in it for creating the art. And then I think the more people see it and the more it reveals, and then as we develop it as well, like I've got other plans to do the comics, and then we're going to have burns and reveals. I think people will fall in love with it more the more they see it and just let it talk for itself, really. But yeah, everyone jump in, come and join the group, follow the Twitter, and I'll keep everyone updated. And we're going to do a space this weekend, actually. I'm going to have Norman Comics on. So we're going to be chatting Saturday
Yeah,
night.
there's going to be lots more of those too, isn't there?
Yeah, man. Every week I'm going to have someone on to chat to. We chatted to T Wade last week, who everyone should check out. And this week we're chatting to Norman Comics, who's got, I haven't shown yet actually his Alcatraz legendary one that he's done. So I'll be showing people that, which hasn't been minted, so that's still out there. And he's a cool guy, and he's a really interesting guy to chat to. So come along and check that out. And we'll probably be running a few like competitions and stuff like that while we're doing it.
Nice. Redlion, I see you came back up. You want to just wrap us up and then we'll head off and catch Skrilla in 10?
He's gone, man. He's left.
Can you hear me? No, I haven't.
Yes, we can.
I'm having some.
I thought you snuck out.
I'm having some phone problems. I had a banana in my backpack and it mushed all over my phone.
Oh no!
And
banana in the back pocket, man. That old
sounds like a fucking school problem, man. The old mushy mandarin or orange in the bottom of the bag.
Sounds suspect.
You good, man? You alright? You fixed it?
Oh man,
there's banana on the mic.
All day.
Got yourself in a real situation.
Thing on my understand it wasn't banana when
you're crackling, mate. You're coming through. Now we can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
You're good now.
Saying I was dropping on that banana all day, so it wasn't a banana after I was done, but it's in my phone completely. But yeah, man, wonderful talk, and I'm very happy I got to meet Vandal, and yeah, we'll be checking the collection. I was squeezing out some oranges now, and I was thinking maybe I should mint that collection as soon as I get the PC. So I'm definitely going to do that.
Nice, man.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take care around all that fruit.
Yeah, I will mint it and make a nice post about it, and we will get it minted out.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And
No
thanks
worries,
for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Redlion. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Viva, and thank you, Skrilla, and everybody else who come along. If I could manifest one thing out of this, it would be that Viva and Skrilla somehow collaborate on a Redlion mushy banana themed frog. You see that shit in fake rares, and then you have to find this space in order to understand the message. Yeah. But this space is going to be recorded, and people can listen back to it at any point in time. So that's the fun of the game.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, everyone. That doesn't have to happen, of course. Yeah, I just want to put it out there and tell you that the word. What's that?
I said I see some smalls down in the audience. I want to give a shout out. I also have smalls, aliens, our lions, of course, and everybody who's listening from home or
Yeah,
here.
it's
Thank
it
you.
reminds me of the A-Team, the movie. I love it when a plan comes together.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And abracadabra, by the way, means I will speak into existence. So having said some of these
So
things today, we're going to make some of these things happen.
before we close, who do we have for next week, man?
Next week, we have a friend of mine from, I believe he's living in Thailand. He is a British dude, though. His name is Nicholas K. Garvin on Twitter. And he is a teacher over there. So he actually educates kids, but in his spare time creates Pepe art. And he does a lot of 6529 memes related stuff, which I think is quite cool because that's an integral part of the wider storyline. And he's got something pretty interesting lined up. It's a somewhat of a pair of Pepe kicks running through the forest and making their way out onto the other side. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys.
Sounds cool,
Fantastic.
man.
You're doing a great job. Arwin, Viva La Vandal, next week this one. So it's developing.
All I'm doing is
Quite
introducing
nicely.
you to my friends, I guess. All right. Sweet as.
Cool.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Take care, guys.
It's
Have a great rest of the
work.
day, everyone.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get some music played out. You can hang around if you want to tune in to some more LL Cool J. And now that you know about Viva and LL Cool J and Method Man and Goldie and Arrow and all these other guys, there's just too many people. And yeah, Fat Joe, Guilty Simpson, Apollo Brown, I think I mentioned them before. Let's fucking go.